When you're running a business in the beauty space, it's really easy to go, I'll just be really good at what I do and the clients will come. But that's not necessarily true. If you don't actually understand how to get clients in the first place, offering more discounts, doing these giveaways and all of those things doesn't actually solve the problem. It's like putting a Band-Aid on. You kind of think it's helping you, but it's actually not. Hello and welcome back to the Beauty Industry Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. I thought I'd start today's episode off with a bit of a story time. I think I have spoken about this in the past, but when I first started out in the beauty industry, I went and took a lash course. I then decided I'm going to work from home, and I tried posting up all these discounts in Facebook groups, and I just wasn't really sure how to get clients. Now, for the most part, I was kind of successful in the sense that I had people who were commenting on the post saying, yes, I want to book in, I'll be a model. But what I found is a lot of those people were low quality clients. They were not showing up to the appointments, they cancelled last minute, or they would read schedule and then completely ghost me. And I know that if you're listening to this, you've probably experienced that to some extent as well. Now, what happened to me is that I realized I actually had no idea what I was doing, and I was not making enough money, nor did I have enough experience to yet be running a business by myself. And so I actually went and worked for someone else, and that was a great lesson for me in seeing how someone else operated their business. What were the things that I liked? What were the things that I didn't like? What were the things that I would learn from or do differently? And over time, I got into a position where I'd gained more experience, I'd had more training, and I then was able to go out on my own. And when I went back out on my own, I was like, I need to make sure I actually can make this financially viable for me. And so when you're running a business in the beauty space, it's really easy to go, I'll just be really good at what I do and the clients will come. But that's not necessarily true. And so through investing in coaches, learning marketing, and going and consistently implementing strategies, trialing and testing different things to see what actually works and what doesn't work, I was able to gain more experience, more knowledge, and develop my own strategy that would allow me to eventually become fully booked. And so what I found is beauty has it so backwards when it comes to growing their clientele. Somewhere along the line, everyone just decided, you know what, we'll just post 1 million before and after pics. We'll constantly run promos, and I'll just blow more money on trainings, trying to offer every service I can so I can get more clients. But what people have failed to realize is that if you don't actually understand how to get clients in the first place, going and doing more trainings, offering more discounts, doing these giveaways and all of those things doesn't actually solve the problem. It's like putting a Band-Aid on. You kind of think it's helping you, but it's actually not. Now, if you've been following me for some time, you may have heard me talk about my fully booked formula. And this is something that I created over 2+ years of business coaching. It was taking all of the best strategies, the client success stories, and the things I'd learned over the years, not only when I had my beauty salon and throughout coaching, but also in the businesses that I've been a part of or owned before I started in the beauty industry. And so one of the big things that really stood out to me is the way you show up and present yourself has a massive influence on the type of people and opportunities you attract into your life. So if your quality of work, your presentation, your marketing, your offers, if they're not high quality, do not expect to attract high quality clients. Things like your brand, content, copywriting, your price point, customer experience, your reviews, these will all come into play here. And I think when we look at a lot of these beauty salons that are complaining about how hard it is to get clients, how saturated the market is, how no one's willing to pay a higher amount, all of that, if you actually look at the way that they present themselves as a business, their branding is non-existent. Their photos, their marketing, their quality of work, it's not there. And unfortunately, they don't pay much attention to the client experience they're offering and really nurturing the client throughout that journey. And so what we have is low barriers to entry, which creates a high influx of people entering the industry, which obviously leads to that high level of competition. But people aren't actually focusing on the customer. Instead, they're focusing on, how do I make this the most beneficial thing for me? How can I make the most money here? How can I live the easiest life? And if that's your mindset, please do not own a business. Please go and work for someone else, because you're not going to be able to nurture people. You're not going to be able to grow if that is the mindset you come into the industry with. The people that stand out in that sea of competition are rarely the ones who are the cheapest, the least experienced, and they offer the most average products and services. And this is why on this podcast, the way I show up in my socials, the way I show up as a person, the way I coach, and the people I attract into my life, I encourage them to become the best. People have more appreciation, respect, and value for people who are the best at what they do. You won't always be for everyone, and that's okay. But I know I would rather have a lesser volume of high quality clients rather than a high volume of low quality clients. And this is why I want to teach you my strategies for getting fully booked with high quality clients. Now, what you may not know is that at any given time in the market, only 3% of people are ready to buy right now. And if you look at the majority of our industry, people are always saying, book now, claim your consultation, do this thing right here, right now. But only 3% of people are actually ready to do that right now. If you have 100 people following you, only 3 people are ready to buy right now. If you have 1,000 people following you, only 30 people are ready to do that right now. Now, can you see why people get this unrealistic expectation of, I should be fully booked, I should have all these things? But the reality is everyone's not there yet. And so instead of being that business that focuses only on the 3% of people that are ready to buy right now, I want you to start capturing the other 97% of the market. You see, 60% of consumers are not problem aware. They don't even know they have a problem. They don't even know they need a solution. They don't even know that there's a better way. 20% of consumers are problem aware. So they've got an idea that they're feeling challenged, frustrated, or something's become an issue for them, but maybe they're not yet taking action on it. A further 17% of consumers are in that information gathering mode. So they're searching out what's the best option. What businesses offer this? What do the reviews look like? What do the results look like? And they're going and getting as much information as they can so that they can make an informed decision. And once they've gone through that process of going from not problem aware to gathering all that information, then they're ready to make a decision. And that's when they're in that buy now mode. Sabri Subi explains this so well and has coined this term, the larger market formula. Now, what I've found is that it's not only this larger market formula or the buyer's journey that's going on in the background when people are going to buy a product or service, but you should also be simultaneously developing know, like, and trust with your audience if you want them to buy specifically from you. And the reason why I say this is, let's say someone has had acne problems. If they're not problem aware, they're probably thinking things like, this is the way my skin has always been. This is the way my family's skin has been before me. It's not a problem. That's just the way it is. But then something within them goes, you know what? This is actually a problem for me. It's frustrating me. My skin's breaking out. It's painful. I'm really insecure. I don't know what to do if I'm wearing more makeup or if I use these different types of skincare things. they're starting to realize that, oh, there's actually an issue here. Now, they might have seen something, they might have spoken to someone, something's obviously come to their attention where they're going, now I'm going to make the change or see what options are available. And they've moved into that information gathering mode. So they might be researching different types of products, different types of treatments, whether they should do at-home skincare, whether they should go to a professional. Maybe they're thinking, do I go to the dermatologist or do I go to a skin therapist? These are all the types of questions that they're going to start asking themselves and looking for information. Now, maybe one of the options has been more appealing or attractive to them. And they've gone, you know what? I'm not going to go to a dermatologist. I want to go to a skin therapist. But I want to go to a skin therapist that actually specializes in acne. And so maybe they've been searching up and they're looking at all these different skin therapists and they find an acne specialist. And maybe there's 3 different acne specialists. And so what we want to do on top of that whole larger market formula is look at how do we get them to buy from you specifically? And this is by using know, like, and trust. So the first level is people need to know who you are, what you do, how you help them. They need to like something about you. So that might be your values. It might be your unique selling point. It might be your personality or your brand, your hobbies, your interests. And the trust element is things like your social proof and credibility. So have you got client success stories? Have you got those before and afters? Do you have great testimonials? Do you have video testimonials? Do you have screenshots of satisfied customers? Do you have business awards? Have you done trainings, upskillings? So I'm hoping that by now, with me explaining these things, instead of just thinking about, hey, I put a post out and I get clients, you're starting to see that there's actually a lot more that goes into attracting clients than we realize. Now, what I found through my experience and working with clients is that there's 5 main moving parts in getting clients and retaining clients. So if you want to get fully booked, you need to understand that there's a whole process in getting the clients into your business, but then you also need to nurture and retain them. And so I'm going to walk through these 5 steps with you right now. If you have a pen and paper handy, I would highly recommend you writing some notes on this because you might get some ideas that pop into your mind and think, maybe I can just go tweak this one thing, or maybe I need to add this into my business. So step 1 is your engagement strategy. Time and time again, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I don't get any engagement on my posts. And like I've said the analogy before, if I were to go sit in a coffee shop and look at everyone there and expect them to give me a compliment, I might get one, but it's very unlikely. However, if I go see someone in the coffee shop and I say, wow, I absolutely love your hair, and then they might, sit there and they go, oh, thank you, I love your shoes. It's very natural for us to reciprocate what we've been shown. And so we need to harness the law of attraction. And if we seek engagement, we actually have to look at where we're also giving engagement. And so if you're wondering, oh, okay, but what does engagement mean? What does that look like? That would be going and finding places where your ideal client or target market is hanging out. Go and follow them. Like some of their posts, comment on them, reply to their stories. The aim of the game here is to actually build a genuine connection with them and expect nothing in return. People don't care about you until they know how much you care about them. Like in any relationship, rapport and connection is the foundation of something meaningful and sustainable over time. So think about any relationship you've had in your life. There's one-night stands and there's long-term relationships. Usually the one-night stands, you're not actually taking the time to get to know each other, to really build that rapport, build that connection, and have a relationship. They're kind of in and out of your life. But the person that maybe you become friends with, you get to know, you understand what their values are, their hobbies, their interests. You feel really aligned and connected to them. Usually that relationship is going to last a lot longer. And so instead of looking at people like potential dollar signs in your business, I want you to start thinking about where am I going out and engaging with people, showing them that I care, showing them that I exist. Now, engagement is such a key tool in you showing up in places where people don't even know you exist. Now, I'll give you an example. When I first started in my beauty business, I once again had to start from zero. I didn't have any followers. I set up an account and I just focused on organic engagement. So I would go on my phone every day, spend half an hour. I would look through, competitors. I would look through complementary businesses. I would look through places where my ideal client would be hanging out. So that was like Pilates studios, certain restaurants, any of that stuff. And I would go through, and if I saw someone who I thought would be an ideal client, I would just go and engage with them. Sometimes it would start by me following them, because I hate it when people send me a message and they're like, wow, your content's so amazing. I'm like, you don't even follow me. You're just sending out this copy and paste message. So I actually go follow them. Then I go and engage with their content. I will comment on it. I will sometimes reply to their stories. I'll have a conversation with them, and I don't expect anything in return. And then over time, through doing this engagement, sometimes when I post up that I'm running something, I have an offer or anything like that, usually they would be the ones that felt comfortable enough to reach out to me. So having that engagement strategy in place is the first step to you actually building more connections and letting more people know you exist. Because once again, all of this client attraction, nurture, retention, it is all based on relationships. And so as the business owner, you need to become a great person at mastering building these relationships with people. The stronger the relationship, the more loyal the customer. The more loyal the customer, the longer they're going to stay with you, the more consistency you get in your cash flow, and the better results and growth you get around. They will give you more referrals. They will give you more resells. They will re-sign, whatever the thing is. If they love you and they appreciate you, they will be a massive asset to your business. And this is why I believe that investing your time into clients is the most important thing you can do as a business owner. So step 2 is your content marketing strategy. Now, this is a really interesting way to think about it, but when you have your audience, there's kind of 2 people in your audience. Number 1 person is the person who's just come across your profile and they're just starting to get to know you. So they're not a customer yet. They're looking at your content, your offerings, what you're about, what kind of things they like about you. It's like coming across someone on Tinder for the first time and looking at their bio. Now, audience 2 is people who are already a customer of yours. So they've bought from you before. And so those type of people, they are either looking at what you're getting up to, they're looking at what the latest thing they need to know is, whether, you're going on holiday, whether there's a new service coming in, anything like that. That's kind of the difference between audience 1 and audience 2. And so you want to make sure that your content is catering to both of those people with the goal of continuing to build that know, like, and trust. So with your content marketing, I think a lot of people think if I post up a piece of content that I'll get clients, but I actually find that your content marketing is more for nurturing people rather than constantly generating leads. So when you think of putting your content out there, you want to make sure that it's aligned to your brand and business goals. So previously I've spoken about trends, and I think that trends can be good if you're trying to really push that discovery. But in terms of actually building a relationship with your current audience and getting more sales in your business, I don't think that going viral is a viable strategy long term, because it doesn't stay aligned or congruent with who you are as a brand and what you value. And so actually getting really clear on what your brand values are, what your brand pillars are. So the things that you like to talk about, that you stand for, that make your brand you want to be consistently delivering those themes throughout your content. We also look at your content pillars. So what type of content are you putting out there? Is it educational? Is it personal authority? Is it storytelling? Is it entertainment? There's so many different types of content we can put out there. I recommend choosing 3 to 5 and just becoming a master at delivering those. In terms of becoming a leader, in terms of being seen as an authority or the best at what you do, really leveraging on that storytelling, client success stories, personal stories, anything like that is going to help you stand out from everyone else who's just posting, here's 5 tips to get better lash retention. Here's 3 tips to prevent yourself from getting sunburnt. Do you see what I mean? Like, instead of always doing really basic stuff that everyone else is doing, here's my 5 lessons that I learned as a skin therapist of 10 years that I wish someone told me about 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to start thinking about how do you make this content your experience, because when you can start making your content your own experience, your own knowledge, your own learnings, people will be more drawn to that and see you as the expert as what you do. If you're just using all of these copy and paste Canva templates, inconsistent branding, you're just copying what the latest trend is, that's not going to show people that you are a strong brand. Now, step 3 is your lead generation strategy. So if you've never heard of lead generation, to put it really simply, lead generation is the process of getting someone to put their hand up and say, yes, I'm interested in what you have to offer. There are so many different ways to generate leads. You could run paid ads. You could sell on your stories. You could post lead generation posts into Facebook groups. You might do a lead magnet, which is like a freebie or download or masterclass, and in exchange, you're collecting people's emails. Maybe you're doing referral programs. All of these things are considered lead generating. And so if you were to actually look at your content, what split of it is lead generating versus lead nurturing? And I think for a lot of people, when they're just constantly putting out educational posts before and afters and, maybe the occasional personal post, none of it's really lead generation specific. So the biggest game changer for me as a business owner was realizing that my content I'm putting out on my normal feed is generally not generating leads unless it had a call to action and they needed to comment a word or DM a word, and then I would have a conversation to then convert that person. A lot of the time it was more nurturing. And so when I started going into Facebook groups and doing lead gen, when I actually started going into my Instagram stories and doing a lot of storytelling with a call to action on the back end of that to get people in my DMs, having conversations and seeing how I could help them if they were looking for that support, that's when everything changed. And so when we look at our marketing strategy and our content strategy, it's really important to think about how many pieces of content am I putting out on a weekly basis to be able to generate leads in my business? Or what is my lead generation system? So in the Fully Booked formula, which is also included in the Beauty Industry Leaders community, what you'll find is there's plenty of different ways to do it. You can send DMs to new followers. You can use the lead generation scripts that I give you to go into Facebook groups and absolutely dominate. You can go and create a lead magnet if you wanted to and collect leads that way. Like, there are so many different ways. I think that the most successful ones that have worked really well for my clients is Facebook groups. And the reason being is everyone who promotes themselves in Facebook groups, they say something along the lines of, hey everyone, I'm Sammy. I am a brow stylist. I have 2 dogs and I work from home, or I have a beautiful salon fit out. I'm located here. Comment something below if you want 20% off, or I'm taking 5 models. Like, none of that is appealing to anyone reading that. And the only people that may find it appealing are the people who are just hunting for discounts. And so by teaching beauty business owners how to actually structure a lead generation style post using scarcity, urgency, appealing to the ideal client's problems, creating solutions or promises for them, and really plugging that unique selling point so that they can see how you're different from everyone else, that's when a lot of people who were struggling to get any clients ended up getting to the point where they're fully booked. They've got a wait list because they just learned how to get the messaging right. And so if you're someone who doesn't really understand how to generate the leads, I highly recommend that you invest some time into this, because lead generation, without having that skill, without getting new clients in your business, you can't make money. And this is why I look at a lot of the businesses in the beauty industry and I go, are you running your business like a business? Or is this just a fancy side hustle or hobby for you? When you knuckle down and get clear on your lead generation strategy, that's when you'll start to see the growth that you've been waiting for. going and doing more trainings, offering more discounts, running more sales, giveaways, any of that stuff, it's not going to attract the right people. Learning copywriting, learning how to structure lead generation, and consistently showing up over time, that is what is going to grow your clientele. Now, step 4 is your lead conversion strategy. So one part is generating the leads. The second part is the conversations you have so you can convert those leads. So like I was saying before, a lot of this stuff is kind of similar to dating in a sense that, if you went on a dating app right now, you will have all the options available. You can keep swiping until your heart content, right? But how many of those people are you actually willing to go on a date with? If you're constantly getting all of these different options, you've also got to think about what conversation am I going to have with this person to see if they're the right fit, to see if we're going to get along, to see if we're offering the same things that we both want. There's these conversations that need to take place. And by having these conversations, we either realize if someone is the right person or if they're just not a great fit. And I believe in having conversations with people and putting effort into them, because what they actually do is they allow us to pre-qualify if they are the right type of client that we want in our business or not. When I was teaching a lot of my clients how to have conversations with people who are interested in their beauty services, by asking certain questions, you can get a feel for if this client is, able to have this service or not, if they're breastfeeding, if they've got a certain skin condition, if they're on a type of medication, anything like that, they might not be the right candidate for that service. And it's great to have that conversation before they come into your business. And then you've got to let them down and say, oh, sorry, I don't think this is going to work. We can't do you today. So just by having little conversations like this, not only are you really getting to understand the client, but you're also able to pre-qualify them. And whether or not they choose to go ahead with you, if you give them a great experience from that first point of contact, by the time they come into their business, by the time they come into your business, they're either going to love you or they're going to feel really comfortable and feel like that they've already been looked after. Now, majority of the clients that I work with, and this is myself included in the past, previously have created these highly masculine text messages that always lead to us getting left on scene. So one big no-no is sending, a whole phone screenshot, paragraph worth chunk of text, because that is so overwhelming for someone to read. If we give them little messages, it's easy to digest. They're going to feel a lot less overwhelmed. And if we ask open-ended questions instead of closed-ended questions, then we're more likely to get a response out of them. And what I mean by this is when you say, let me know what time works for you. Let me know if you've had this before. It's more of a command rather than a question. And so if you're telling someone to do something, you're less likely to get a response out of them. But if you were asking them the question, would you please be able to let me know what time works for you? Or have you had this service before? Because it's a question, you're more likely to get a response. So with your DM messaging and your conversions, the first thing is using their name. A lot of people do not use names. They always default to lovely, hun, babe, beautiful. And I think that if you're not using the person's name, it's kind of losing that initial touch point of personalization. And people really value it when you notice them and you show them that you're going that extra mile, you're taking that effort for them. So I always like to use their name. Hey, Sammy, thank you so much for whatever it is. Did they comment on a post? Did they reply to the story? Did they vote on a poll? I was just wanting to ask, have you had this service before? Wait for them to reply, yes or no. Have they had the service before? Yes? Cool. Did you enjoy it? Were you happy with it? Is there anything that you'd want improved in the future? If no, what kind of outcome or goal are you looking to achieve? Have you got any inspiration pics? Asking these questions is not only showing that you care about them, but also they're going to feel a lot more value. And when they feel more value, when you hit them with the price point, they're going to feel like it's worth it. You know, when you have those clients that message you, like, how much does it cost? It's like, how long's a piece of string? You know, there's so many other questions or information we need before we just give you the price. And so if you just give them the price and all the other 10 businesses that they've asked that day have also just given them the price, they're going to judge your value based on price point. They're going to go for the cheapest option because everyone is essentially offering the same thing. But if you have that conversation, you give them value, you provide them with some suggestions or share your expertise, they're going to see more value in you. And so, like I was saying before, people don't care about you until they know how much you care about them. And so having these conversations is super important. And if you don't know what type of questions to ask, if you're not sure how to lead these conversations, and I promise you're not alone. I have had a lot of women come to me and they're like, I don't know what to say. You know, you kind of just want to jump the gun and get to the point and book them in, but it takes more effort than that. And so what I've done is I've compiled these DM scripts with leading questions that can really help you guide that conversation so it flows with ease and it feels natural. It does not feel super masculine. It does not feel like a sleazy car salesman. And so if this is something that you struggle with, please send me a DM on Instagram, because if you need some feedback, send me some screenshots of what you're saying in your conversations. Sometimes it takes having another set of eyes, looking over the type of words you're using, the type of statements you're giving, the type of questions, where the conversation's leading, for you to realize, oh, maybe if I just changed the way I said this one little thing, I would stop getting left on scene. Biggest game changer ever. And why I'm so passionate about the lead conversion is because previously I had a beautiful client. Her name was Katie, and she did really well with her lead generation. Like, she got 46 leads in, I think it was like a day or two. And she sent out this massive paragraph of text. Pretty much it said, hey, I'm Katie from XYZ. I'm offering this service. Have you had your brows tattooed before? Are you pregnant? I think some of the questions were like, have you had this service before? Are you pregnant? Are you on any medication? This, and this. And it just was so overwhelming. The text message was like, dun, 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 dun. It felt like an army officer was just hounding into this poor woman who would have been reading the text message. And I said to her, if the roles were reversed and you were to receive a text like that, what would be your initial reaction? And so I actually just sent it to her and I said, read this out loud to me on this call. And she's like, wow, that's a lot of text. That's really overwhelming. I just wouldn't even know where to start. And so she sent that text message out to more than half of the leads that she had acquired. And what happened? Well, she didn't get any of the leads. Most of the people just left her on scene. And so what we did is we changed the strategy. We broke it down into small bite-sized chunks. She was sending those smaller text messages and her response rate was insane. She ended up booking 12 clients off the back end of it, even though half of them were just complete write-offs because of that big text message. She was asking things about, have you had it before? What are your ideal brow goals? You know, what would make this a wow experience for you? Really putting it back on them. And then when they came in, she made sure that they had such an incredible experience, that they did have the brows that they wanted. And what did that do? That led to more referrals. So taking the time to, once again, build the relationship, build the rapport, and have those conversations is going to be a massive benefit to you and the long-term growth of the business. Now, step 5, our last step, is your client nurture and retention strategy. If you've listened this far, you probably know, hey, there's actually a fair bit to understand when it comes to attracting these clients into my business. The last thing you want to do is invest all this time, effort, and energy into getting these clients, and then you never see them again. All the consistency in cash flow comes from the way you treat your clients, the results you offer, the experience they have, and that continual rebooking. If they're always rebooking with you, you're going to be able to retain cash flow. And so if you think that just getting the clients is the one thing and that's all you need to focus on, you're wrong. You need to get the clients and you need to keep the clients. If you can't keep the clients, then There's usually a couple reasons why. Number one, you aren't good at what you do. You need to go do more training or upskilling. I have seen this happen before with clients. They're like, clients aren't rebooking. I don't know why. Ask them for feedback. Hey, I'm always looking for ways to improve my business. I was wondering if you're open to giving me some feedback on how I could have improved my service or the client experience so that you would have rebooked or wanted to come back. And sometimes those people will genuinely say how they felt or what they experienced and why. And instead of taking that information and going, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, I suck at what I do, and making it mean something about you, take it constructively and think, how do I improve on this and make that weakness a strength for my business so it doesn't keep happening in the future? And so the more often you can take on feedback, the more improvements you can make, and the faster you're going to go from struggling to thriving. So like I was saying, if you're not offering a great quality service or a good client experience, people might not rebook because they didn't find the value in it. Another reason why you might be struggling to retain clients is because previously when I've worked with both solo business owners and people with teams, the number one reason why they don't rebook clients is because they don't want to feel pushy or salesy. Because they've never been taught sales skills. And I don't even know where this sleazy car salesman kind of approach came from, because not everyone has actually experienced that. Like, I'm sure there's been times where you've gone into, one of your favorite stores, maybe it's like Sephora or Mecca, and someone's really helped you choose out the right shade of foundation, or they've given you some free samples, and maybe they said, oh, would you like this mascara as well? Like, it's been getting great results. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I would. And it made that sales process or that experience really positive for you. I think we often focus on the negatives and we create this story that we're going to come across as that pushy, salesy type of person. And so I want you to look at the best experiences you've had when it comes to sales. Restaurants, what's your favorite restaurant? What is the best quality customer service that you've had at a restaurant? In terms of clothing, like, what's your favorite store to go to? Why is it your favorite store? What is it about that experience that you enjoy shopping there? If you think about luxury brands, you're assigned a specific salesperson who comes over, they bring you a bottle of sparkling water, they sit you down, they have these conversations, they take their time, they go out the back, they find the right thing that you want. There's so much that we don't realize is happening in that customer experience, but it just makes us want to go back and experience it more because it makes us feel good. And so when we're looking at how we're coming across in that rebooking or sales process, our goal is to think about, how do we want the customer to feel? If you feel awkward, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel pushy or salesy, that's exactly how you're going to show up without realizing it. Like, if I felt really nervous on this podcast and I didn't want to do the episode, it would come across that way in the episode. People can feel energy. They can see it. They can hear it in your voice. And so what you need to do is follow a process consistently for you to gain the confidence and the experience to put people through this sales process, right? So my process is establishing a rapport. So when the client comes in, you're really getting to know them. You're building that relationship. You're having a conversation, finding the things that they like, that you like, and you can converse about. Now, in NLP, we look at matching and mirroring. So if you're ever sitting down with a friend and you notice you've got one arm kind of resting on your chin, they might do the same thing. If you've got your legs crossed and they've also got their legs crossed, or you're talking really fast and you're energetic and exciting and they're doing that same thing, that is matching and mirroring. Now, if you've got someone who's shouting and talking really loudly and then you've got another person who's kind of like really quiet and closed off, that's not building rapport, because there's such a massive discrepancy in the body language, the tonality, the posture of the person. And so when you want to build rapport with people, it's matching and mirroring that we want to focus on. Now, aside from building the rapport, the next step is really pre-framing people as to why they would want to rebook or why they would want to buy this product. Now, me telling you to go do something, like if you've seen this with kids, right? You tell them, no, don't go and play in the playground after you've had a shower. They just feel like, oh, you're just not being fun. You're being bossy. But if you tell them you've just had a shower to clean up for the day, if you go play in the sand pit, you're going to bring all this sand into your bed and it's going to be uncomfortable. They kind of learn this process of consequence. And so one of my friends, Jade from Labby Lash, she taught me this with her kids. It's like she always pushes this idea of consequence. And so you can equip the people with the knowledge, the tools, the resources. They can make the informed decision on their own, but you can't make it for them. We see this with healthcare practitioners as well. When I was in uni, we had to make sure that any patient that came in, we advise them about all the risk factors, all the potential benefits, and it's up to them what decision they choose to make when it comes to treatment. And so I want you to get into this mindset when it comes to teaching people about rebooking. So what are the appointment-specific benefits of them coming back? What are the service-specific benefits or the expectations or risks of if they don't come back on a consistent basis? Like I know with my skin therapist, Sam, she is so amazing. She's really patient with me. When I first started with my skin, I was like, oh, my skin's so good. I don't need to keep coming back now. But it was that education around, well, it's got to this point now, but if we actually stop doing treatments altogether, you'll start to see that the positive results that we've created, they might start to wear off and you could go back the other way. And so it was educating me on maintenance appointments. So what you need to understand is like, how are you educating your clients so that they can see the benefit in returning on a consistent basis? People won't just follow your advice if you don't give them a valid reason why. And also you want to make sure that that reason that you're giving them is of value to them. It needs to be a benefit to them, not a benefit to you. Example of benefit to you is, oh, you need to rebook in 3 weeks' time because I need money and I'm struggling. Not that you'd ever say that, but do you know what I mean? Like that's very like self-centered and self-centric. Whereas if you were focusing on the client, you would say, you get the appointment time that works for you so that you know you're getting prioritized, so that you know you don't have to miss out on that event you wanted to go without having your beauty service done in time. Or it might be with your lashes, you know that the lash refill, you know, you want to go back every 2 to 3 weeks. Well, if you've got that event coming up, you want to make sure that they're nice and fresh before that event happens. Or if it's your skin needling, you might tell them, hey, if you've got something on the weekend, then you might want to book in for a Tuesday or Wednesday. So it gives your skin time to settle down before you've got that event on. So it's really education, right? Now, these are conversations that you want to have in chair with the clients. After that, you move into the reception area where you would usually be having your iPad or your laptop or whatever it is you're using to process sales, rebook, all of that fun stuff. Now, I always think if you've got a team around, it's great to have other team members walk past and just hype them up. Like, wow, I love that color on you. That looks amazing. Or wow, that blonde transformation, it looks beautiful. Like just being able to give the customer positive feedback that isn't only just coming from you, but it's coming from other staff member, that will put them on this high, right? Because they're feeling really good. They're feeling excited. And what do people do when they feel great about themselves? When they feel excited, they want to book. You see this happen at the casino all the time. You know, people start winning money. They get excited. They spend more money. We actually have this funny thing at bowling, side story, where we had this guy, right? And him and his girlfriend had always been like arguing about this one thing. He wanted to buy this car and she just kept saying no. And she came in and she looked so miserable. Like I really felt for her. And then, you know, halfway through the game, she gets this strike and she jumps up and she's yelling and like screaming and like so excited and happy about what she'd achieved. And then 5 minutes later, the guy had asked her, oh, do you reckon I could buy that car? And she was like, yeah, sure. It's just, I know it's kind of off topic, but it's still that psychology of when people feel good, they're more likely to purchase more, they're more likely to spend more. And so what we want to do is create that excitement to then get them feeling positive and wanting to rebook when they're in that state of mind. So we give them that hype up, and then also we ask for their feedback. You know, is there anything that we could improve on in the future? This is another point of feedback. If you can get more feedback, you can make more improvements. And it's better to get the feedback in your salon or your business before they leave, because once they leave, we've seen it before. People get so quiet in salon, they leave, they put it over Facebook, they let like 200 crazy comments like really wind them up, and then they come back into the business and they're like having a massive rage. But sometimes it's just worth asking that question in the business so you can fix it there and then. Now, you've given that hype up, you've asked for their feedback. Now it's time for the rebooking side of things. So where I see a lot of beauty business owners go wrong is that they focus on processing the sale first, and then they go, oh, and do you want to rebook? Do not do that. That's just a big no-no. What you want to do is rebook them first, create that habit, and then it will become really natural for them to go, okay, I'll think about my next appointment, get them to pull out their calendar. There's a few different questions you can ask around this. Once again, I have a process, I have a script, things to do, but to give you an insight, I would be looking at the conversations I've had with them. When are they usually free? Based on those days or times, I would make a suggestion to say, we've actually got this day or time available in 3 weeks' time. Does that work for you? Or we've also got this. And if you give them a couple of options, the goal is to get them to actually pull out their camera and think, oh, yeah, that will work, or no, that won't work. If they're waiting on a roster, if they're waiting or anything like that, they're waiting on, daycare, they're waiting on their husband, like whatever it is, you can actually ask them, is it okay for me to follow up with you? And usually they'll say yes. And so that opens up that next point of contact. When you go to check in with them, they're already aware that you're going to be following up with them. So once you've rebooked them, then you think about, okay, do they need any aftercare? Yes or no? If they say yes, then you say, do you need a top up, or are you fine? Sometimes you find, like with shampoo and conditioner, especially myself included, people go, oh, do you need a shampoo and conditioner at the moment? And I say, oh, no, I've got some. And then they're like, well, how empty is it? And then I go, oh, I've actually probably only got 2 weeks left. No, it is a good idea to top up now. And so just asking simple questions like that can help you increase the customer value when they're at that appointment. The other thing that you can also look at doing is, if they've said in the past that they want to change, which might be, maybe they've been getting brown hair and they want to go to more of a balayage, or they're going from a balayage to a half head or full head of foils. Or maybe it's, I've gone from classic extensions, but I want volume extensions. I want, that extra upgrade. This is where you can have that conversation with them. So you got your rebooking/upgrade, then you've got your aftercare, then you process the sale, you put that payment through, and you want to be smiling with them about this. Like, make it an exciting thing for them. Like, thank you so much. Show them that you value and appreciate them. And then, like I was saying, following up with them. So if it's a new or first time service, you want to follow up within 48 hours. Make sure that, they're having a positive experience, or you're taking on any feedback that they have to give you. If you don't follow up with them, for example, if I went from being a blonde to a brunette, or I got my eyebrows tattooed for the first time, it's such a dramatic change that sometimes you're starting to freak out. You're like, I don't like it. I don't know what I've done. Like, have I made this big mistake? And just by checking in with that client, they can express their concerns, and then you can also have that conversation with them to put their mind at ease. You could offer them to come back in if something's gone wrong. Like, it just opens up that place of genuine customer service and care for the clients. The other times I follow up is, if I've spoken to someone, they say they're waiting on a work roster, it might be, hey, I'll have this conversation with them maybe a week out or 2 weeks out from their appointment, depending on how busy you're getting. Otherwise, if they haven't been back in, 2 to 3 months, check in with them and ask them how they've genuinely been. Don't try to say, hey, I've got this special deal or something like that. Like, just check in with them and see. And then once they reply, then you can say, we'd love to have you back in. Is there any service or thing? And then you might say, we're actually looking for some models for content. Like, there's so many different ways that you can position it where it's specific to them. They feel valued. You can get them back in, and then you can get them rebooking again. So that is a larger oversight of how you get fully booked. Now, the specific strategies, the scripts and everything, I can't cover in one podcast episode. But here are some fun stats for you when it comes to implementing these things so you understand. Now, in marketing, we have the rule of 7. So people need to see or hear your message at least 7 times before they act. Now, if we look at the amount of Facebook ads we're getting given, the amount of reels or TikToks people scroll, I believe that number is more like, 16 to 25. It's crazy. Like if you think about activewear, because I know this is just so relevant to me, I'll look at one website and then any of the platforms I'm on, Instagram, Facebook, I start getting flooded with ads. And so what I'm doing is I'm subconsciously scrolling past them. But after seeing them so many times, it just hits that point where I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to check it out. And so this is the same thing that happens to us as beauty business owners. We need to think about people are in this world where they're getting flooded with so many different ads, so many different pieces of content, so many videos. They're getting sent things from their friends. And so we need to be really consistent in the way we show up. If you put one post out there, it doesn't get any comments, like people forgot about it. Try again, change the messaging, change the graphic, repost it again at a different time that might be better when your audience is actually more engaged. There's so many different things that you need to be considering before you go, something doesn't actually work. And I found that people need repetition over a longer period of time. To get people onto this podcast, I need to make sure that I'm putting up stories every week when the new episode comes out so people remember it. They might know about it, but then they forget because all these other things are going on. It might be that, you've told people that you offer this new service, it's coming, and you've done it a couple times, but they're like, has it actually been launched yet? Like, when can I book in for it? How do I book in? So just creating content in different ways, whether that's storytelling, whether that's, putting up behind the scenes videos, whether that's going and having DM conversations with people who previously said they were interested. Being front of mind is super important when you're trying to grow your clientele. People's conversion will be slower or faster depending on how urgently they need their problem solved or how deeply your messaging resonates with them. So, like I was saying before, don't go for the 3% of the market who are ready to buy now. Go for the other 97% of the market. Make sure that your messaging is tailored towards moving them faster through that funnel. Now, lastly, this isn't probably what you're wanting to hear, but I do believe in having a multi-channel approach to marketing. Seeing that same message across multiple platforms can really increase that familiarity faster. So with my podcast reels, for example, they go out on YouTube, they go out on Instagram, they go out on Facebook, and they also go out on TikTok. Now, I use Loomly with my podcast agency, so that is just one video and it goes across all the different platforms. It's really simple. It doesn't take me any extra time or effort. And I think that if I'm showing up in all these different places, I'm increasing my potential of attracting more ideal clients into my world. And so in Beauty Industry Leaders Community, I talk about the different platforms, the primary audiences that are hanging out on those platforms, what their kind of buying behaviors are. And so you'll start to see that if I'm trying to target younger people, I want TikTok. If I'm trying to target more the Gen Z millennial group, then it's going to be Instagram. If I'm trying to do millennials and older than that, then I'm focusing on Facebook. And so by you showing up in those different places, you also want to make sure that the places you're showing up are where your ideal clients hanging out. So if you've listened to this episode and you've thought, oh, I don't know, it sounds really good. Yeah, maybe I'll give it a go. And then you don't actually action or implement anything, I want to share this story with you about one of my clients, Tash. In September 2022, she reached out to me. She had 500 followers. Her business was Beauty Designs by Tash. She was making like 2-3K a month average. And I did a couple one-on-one sessions with her. She was part of one of my mini kind of group coaching programs, and she had all the tools and resources, but she didn't actually implement them. And so she'd jump on these calls with me and she'd say, it's not working. And I'd ask her, what's not working? And when I asked her for proof, she said, I don't have any, because she hadn't actually done the work. And so what happened is she went on for probably about another year. Ego, different things got in the way. And it's such a mindset thing. Like as a coach, you can't force someone else to change. They have to want to change within themselves. And so we've still had a great relationship over time. I have always been there for her when she was ready to come around. And this year she came back around and said, all right, I'm ready to go all in. And so what we did is we jumped on a call and we were looking at her brand. She really needed to rebrand. It was not currently aligned to the trajectory that she was wanting her business to go on. So she improved her marketing. She really focused on creating messaging that spoke to a higher end client rather than, the people that just want the cheapest discount. She actually put effort into the way she was structuring it, the type of problems she was speaking to, the type of solutions she was creating, really plugging her unique selling point. And then what we also found is she was offering, like 12 different services or more. And I just said, it's really confusing to know what you offer, what you're actually good at, what I need to book in for as a client. And so I told her to cut down, and she niched down by cutting out majority of her services. So now she only offers brow tattooing, brow styling, and tiny tattoos. And she's actually really thrived in that place. Like most of the time she's booked out with brow laminations because she's just become the go-to person. Before she was offering fat cavitation, BBL, she was doing all these different random things, teeth whitening, and it was just like, what do you actually offer? Like, how do you actually help people? And it was just too overwhelming to even look at all her offerings. So we cut down. And on top of that, getting that lead generation Facebook script for her to follow and consistently use. She started showing up every single week. She'd do it almost twice a week. And over time, people started to see her business and start to notice her. They were inquiring with her. And we actually found a winning, framework for her lead gen, which when she posted it up, she generated 196 leads in less than 24 hours. Now, she uses this same kind of style, or she also uses a bit of storytelling now because she's really built up that brand. I would say she's built up the brand awareness, She now gets about 5 to 10 clients per post she puts up. And so anytime she puts a post up or a story up, she knows she's getting clients and making money. And having that type of tool in your business is so valuable. Even with her DMs, she was struggling to have the right DM conversations to actually get people to convert. And when she started asking the open-ended questions, when she started realizing, how do I change my messaging so it comes from a place of really being of service and caring, that's when she started getting more and more bookings in, more and more referrals. So the power of her having a strategy and showing up consistently, what I noticed in her business was insane. April this year, she was making 6K. May, she made 7K. June, she made 8K. July, she made 9K. But then August, she actually had to take a week off because she was going on a holiday, and she managed to make 9K. So that's all of a sudden growing $1,000 each month, but also being able to take a whole week off and still retain that same amount of income. Then she came back. September was a 10K month for her. And October, she was just shy of making $12,000. And so I asked her, what's happened? What have you done differently? What have been the wins? And she just said showing up consistently, doing the lead gen in Facebook groups, doing the selling on stories, and then being able to have those DM conversations. Now, on top of that, now she's able to retain that business at 11, 12K a month, which is amazing. Given that we're heading into December now, it's looking like she's going to be able to hit her first 15K month, which is super exciting. But also what's crazy is in April, she had been getting all her reviews on Fresher, and she was sitting at like 30 reviews on Google. I just checked it today at the time of recording this episode, and she's got 97 5-star reviews on Google. That's heaps of reviews. And she also has a client retention rate at 91%. Now, if you don't believe that you can retain clients after this Christmas period, let me tell you about Eri, another student who implemented this training into her business last year in November. She went from making 4 to 6K months to consistent 9K months. Now, we looked at her income statements from November, December, January, February, March last year, and she consistently maintained those 9K months. So what I'm here to tell you is that despite everyone else in the industry saying it's so saturated, it's hard to get clients, January, February, it's a quiet time for the industry. I think that's a load of bullshit. And the reason being is no one has a strategy, and people don't invest enough time into their business, learning marketing, looking after their clients, and following up with them. Now, if you can take this information, if you can come into Beauty Industry Leaders community, watch these modules and go and implement that in your business, you are going to be 10 times further ahead for the whole of next year, generating more clientele, more income and cash flow in your business without that overwhelm and stress of feeling like I've just been on this massive high from Christmas and then I've dropped down. These are the exact strategies that I share. I break down for you in a way that's easy to understand, but it's also not just strategies. It's giving you the tools and resources for you to go easily implement. I know that a lot of beauty business owners are time poor. I know that they feel like all this business side of things is really complex, but it doesn't need to be. By teaching you how to use AI, by teaching you how to get more hours back in your week and teaching you how to make this possible and easy so you can actually focus doing the things you enjoy the most in your business, whether that's working on the tools, whether that's growing a team. If you can nail this strategy and implement this and consistently have those clients and cash flow coming in, you're going to be in a great position in your business. So if you're sick of feeling burnt out, putting all this effort in and not getting results, it's time to make change. Don't let another year go by just winging it and then blaming everything on the industry and competitors when you find yourself in the same position 12 months from now. Bringing this type of mindset and attitude into 2025 will become a cancer for your business. The first step to change is always the hardest and the most uncomfortable, but it's never too late to start and also necessary for growth. So join myself and other driven, kind, and inspiring humans on building businesses that impact people's lives and genuinely make a positive difference in the world. If you want to join the Beauty Industry Leaders community, you can by clicking the link in the show notes. It's 197 AUD a month, which makes it less than $50 a week. You get access to a 90-minute live training each month with resources and tools to go implement that training in your business. Reason why it's one training a month is because it gives you the time to implement without getting overwhelmed and burnt out. There is also an incredible library of resources that is getting built out for you, covering things from business foundations through to marketing, finance, sales, leadership and hiring from not only myself, but other experts in the field. So if you're ready to level up your business, I invite you to come and join our thriving community today. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you found some value in it. If you have any questions around how to get fully booked, how to attract those higher quality clienteles and make 2025 your best year yet, send me a DM over on Instagram at Sammy Kennedy Coach. I look forward to hearing from you. Have an amazing week. Bye.
Audience exclusive.